Hello everyone, welcome to this particular lecture. Today we'll be discussing about how to write a research paper or a technical paper, or let's say writing a report for your final year thesis. So हम क्या क्या पैरामीटर को ध्यान में रख के हम लिख सकते हैं, कैसे उसको एक स्ट्रॉन्ग मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट और रिपोर्ट हम उसको बना सकते हैं, सो दैट अगर आप सोच रहे हो टू कम्युनिकेट टू ए गुड प्लेटफॉर्म लाइक इंडेक्स जर्नल, स्कूपर्स और वेब ऑफ साइंस, थिंकिंग टू पब्लिश इन ए इम्पैक्ट फैक्टर जर्नल, तो आपको ये वीडियो जरूर देखना है. एंड so let's start. I'll be sharing my screen and I'll be quickly covering all the aspect. So if you're thinking for research paper, technical paper, or review paper, or your final year report, so it can be of different dimension. So let's start. कैसे हम लिखेंगे, बट बिफोर राइटिंग हमको समझना है कि रिसर्च क्या है. सो व्हाट इज रिसर्च, यू मस्ट बी नोइंग इट, बिकॉज अगर आपके दिमाग में है कि आपको पेपर लिखना है तो आपको पहले तो कुछ एक कहीं से स्टार्ट करना है. दैट इज वेयर यू विल बी सीकिंग फॉर द नॉलेज. सो दिस इज बेसिकली यू कैन से सर्च फॉर द नॉलेज. So in a simpler way, I can say like research. So जो हम already publish हो चुका है, like in a scientific community we say to do a literature survey or literature review जो हम करेंगे, तो there are so many articles that are already published and उसको पहले हमको समझना है, तभी हमको पता चलेगा कि उसमें गैप क्या है, क्या नया हम कर सकते हैं, क्या एडिशन हम कर सकते हैं. और इन अनदर वे जो पहली बार लिखना चाहते हैं, सो दिस यू कैन कीप इट इन योर माइंड. जो हम लिख रहे हैं, वट एवर यू आर राइटिंग, यू आर प्रिपेयरिंग मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट, एंड वो अल्टीमेटली फॉर योर ओन सेल्फ सेटिस्फेक्शन also you can be thinking to write a paper, or else you are thinking something, you want to contribute to the society or to the scientific community, so that can be a reason. So you have to keep it in mind that जो भी हम अभी publish करेंगे, where that platform can be of journal or conference or book chapter आप कर रहे हो, so उसका एक क्योंकि ये वेब पे रहेगा, ऑनलाइन प्लेटफॉर्म पे रहेगा, इट विल बी इंडेक्स्ड इन डिफरेंट डेटाबेसेस, इट विल बी अवेलेबल टू n number of scientific community and to the author, those who will be reading it. So उसका एक id, simply now I'll be using just think of a digital id will be assigned, मतलब एक particular id उसको assign हो रहा है, and that id, if you are the author, it will be register with your name. So as you are the author, so it will be with you for the lifelong. So when you think of writing anything, so if you just think that you are giving a permanent kind of a record to the society, and that record will be along with you for the lifetime, even after the life. So then there can be of so many things. Why to write the publication, why to go for paper publication? It can be of for, as we have discussed, कंट्रीब्यूशन टू द सोसाइटी. आपको सोसाइटी को कुछ कंट्रीब्यूट करना है, सेल्फ सेटिस्फेक्शन के लिए आप कर रहे हो, सेल्फ मोटिवेट होके लिख रहे हो. somewhere there is another kind of a factor or scenario where we say publisher perish, there is kind of pressure जहाँ पे कि academic field, scientific lab और community में है, because to establish yourself as well as to get accreditation for your institution, वो भी एक factor हो सकता है. Then again, this self-interest, you can relate with the self-satisfaction also. Somewhere another factor can be of it can be a balancing factor between self-interest and the self-denial. Self-denial is nothing but this publisher perish that we're talking about. So Both can also be a factor towards writing a paper. So what to publish? New and original result method, as which will be in relation or in regard with the knowledge of understanding the scientific process or the experimentation that we have been doing. तो उसको ध्यान में रख के, but it has to be new, something new that will be will be contributing something to the society. Research, as we are talking about, there are everything is available, so many research already being taken place. So आपको जैसे कि we do update our mobile phone all the time, there are like updates, so जहाँ पे कि आपको new feature आते रहता है and you upgrade it. So in that process, if you think of writing, adding or value addition to the existing one, so that can be another aspect, instead of just inventing or thinking to create something new. You can have both way possibility. Then what not to publish? So outdated work, जो काम ऑलरेडी पब्लिश हो चुका है, जो इनकरेक्ट डेटा है, जहाँ पे साइंटिफिक स्टडी जहाँ पे लैकिंग है, तो वो सबको हमको पब्लिश नहीं करना है. So if you understand what not to publish, it will be much easier to understand what to publish. So this is fine, I guess. Then we'll be talking about strong manuscript. क्या हो सकता है? Strong manuscript, जब आप manuscript आपका लिख रहे हो, तो वहां पे क्या क्या पॉइंट हमको ध्यान रखना है. There are two major component of it. One is good content. आपका तगड़ा content होना है. From where it will come? From your लाइक लिटरेचर रिव्यू आप करोगे, देन आपका मेथोडोलॉजी जो आपका होगा, खुद का जो इनपुट होगा, देन आपका खुद का जो डिजाइन प्रोस्पेक्टिव है, जो सिमुलेशन आप कर रहे हो, कुछ नया मेथड आप अप्लाई कर रहे हो, कुछ नया एल्गोरिथम आप अप्लाई कर रहे हो. देन आफ्टर दैट व्हेन योर कंटेंट इज रेडी, यू हैव टू प्रेजेंट इट वेरी वेल. आपका अगर सब कुछ सही है बट आपका प्रेजेंटेशन में गड़बड़ी है, तो फिर आप फंस जाओगे. मतलब आपका पेपर बनने के बाद भी वो कहीं पे पब्लिश होने के लिए रेडी नहीं होगा, और कोई जर्नल की कोई जहाँ पे पब्लिकेशन हाउस, दे वोंट बी रेडी टू पब्लिश इट. So both thing we have to keep it in mind. So we'll be discussing that two component. So first, let's understand structure of a paper. So I've just taken a human title, abstract, and keyword. It will be with the head part. You can think of like that is the kind of the facial kind of you say the importance. अगर आप एक आदमी को फर्स्ट फेशियल एक्सप्रेशन से ही पकड़ लेते हो whether he is interested to communicate further, to communicate or not, सो आपको समझ में आ जाता है. सिमिलरली अगर एक पेपर को आपको पढ़ना है, तो एब्स्ट्रैक्ट, टाइटल एंड कीवर्ड्स अगर सही है, तो नेक्स्ट आप इंट्रोडक्शन बॉडी पार्ट में जा रहे हो, लाइक इंट्रोडक्शन, लिटरेचर रिव्यू, मेथड, रिजल्ट, डिस्कशन. दीज आर फ्यू लाइक इट कैन बी ऑफ सब component to that, सब parts वहाँ पे division हो सकता है, but these are like I can say like the minimal or the average component that you must think of adding to your manuscript. फिर जो limb part पे that we have kept it like conclusion, acknowledgement, references and supplementary data. In a few journal they may or may not ask supplementary data, but you need to have it ready. Then acknowledgement also will be discussing. All this component will be discussing. Hope this is clear to everyone. So let's start. Starting with the first point is your title. The title has to be brief, appropriate and informative and very clear, so that somebody will read, okay fine, he is doing in that area, so we'll look at to the next is your abstract. After that title, normally what we have is the author detail. The author detail here, the affiliation part is there. So this is one of our published work. I have kept it for the understanding. So author has to be like those whomever may be the author, they should be having kind of a mutual understanding, and consent from all the co-author has to be taken before submitting your work to the journal or your conference or कहीं पे भी आप communicate कर रहे हो. So I guess that is clear. Then abstract has to be very, concisely to be written, and it should be speaking about your scope of the research and summarizing the result, everything, but not that much of content. Here, as you can see, there is bit lengthy. I must say we could have, cut it off to some level. So the word reduction could have been done, but okay, let's proceed. So next one is your कीवर्ड्स. कीवर्ड्स भी आपको ऐसे सिलेक्ट करने हैं जैसे कि those will be the major key point that will be touching to your manuscript. जैसे कि आप वेब पे सर्च कर रहे हो, आई एम वर्किंग इन like ECG signal processing, so somebody can search arrhythmia, ischemia, or machine learning with ECG or analysis of ECG signal. So my paper might reflect to their search component, and they might view my paper and they can refer that paper also. So then introduction. After the keywords or the abstract, you have the introduction, where it should be conveying something like why the readers care about reading your paper or downloading it, because the title and the abstract will be visible to everyone, but the whole article will be visible once they download it. तो वो क्यों डाउनलोड करेंगे जब तक अगर उनको समरी और जैसे मैं बोला यहाँ पे, इफ यू सी, इफ दिस इज नॉट satisfying, you are not giving a inviting kind of a approach to the reader, then they will not look it into the other component of your paper. So then in the after your introduction, you could have, you can include the literature work or literature review also, which will be saying ki, you have to find it out before starting your research. Whatever has been published, you can take a time frame, and उस टाइम फ्रेम में जो भी पब्लिकेशन हुआ है उसको आपको प्रिसाइजली यू हैव टू टेल, एंड यू हैव टू फाइंड आउट द गैप, एंड यू हैव टू कन्वे कि आप क्या एडिशन करना चाहते हो. And then your method or material, somewhere many of the researchers, they used to write it material and method section, so that also you can do it. It can be flexible, it is not from whatever I have written here. So where most of your result and your own kind of algorithm, if you have developed, or the experimentation design that you have done something new to it, so that you can elaborate it. And then you can have your result part, where basically you need to keep all the tables and graph very kind of well crafted, so that it should be. And remember, table and graph, like if we're talking about tables should be editable. जो भी है, the table should be editable, and the graphs and the images has to be high resolution, and somewhere we can say like um, uh, because in few journal we have seen, they display the the tables and the images below your abstract to to attract the reader, so that you have to keep it in mind. As you can see over here also, we have, though it is very compressed, because I've kept the whole page, still the images are looking quite nice, so that we have to take care of. In the discussion section, again, you can think of a kind of a giving a wide applicable kind of perspective of your work. Then any problem or shortcoming that you have encountered, that also can relate. I've seen in many of the paper where they have included kind of table, comparative table, where they compare their achieved result with the earlier published work, so that you can also think of. And some kind of it should be next will be your conclusion. So all the result that you achieve, so it should be supportive kind of a thing, and logical argument has to be drawn in this particular section. Then the conclusion, where you have to briefly summarize a kind of the result and the discussion that you have achieved, and it should be more than a kind of a summary. And you have to emphasize like जो आपको finding है, जो result है, जो statistical key values that you have achieved, so that you have to give more emphasis on that. And somewhere, people, they see your abstract and the conclusion, it should be kind of complementary to each other. Like if you have set some objective, then in the conclusion you have to say that those objective has been met. So all this aspect you have to take care of, and you need to avoid we normally we prefer to write it in the basics, but nowadays people are writing in the active tense also, but better to have your manuscript in the passive tense. Acknowledgement section we have not included, but you can include if you are taking some kind of financial support, or you are utilizing some laboratory which is not you are taking help from other institution, and some somebody whom you in your course of research somebody has helped you, but he or she is not well enough to be a co-author, but you can include them in the acknowledgement section. That can be done. And in the ethical point of view also, that is good to do that. And reference, when we're talking about reference, that is very much important when we talk about ethical point of view, because you have to cite the primary source from where the work which you are being referred in the mostly in the introduction and the literature part. We do refer so many article in, even in the material and the methods section also we do refer. So the ethical point of view very important. Try to refer the primary source of the author, and then it should be like whenever you are referring, you are giving a credit to the earlier published work. So it is kind of citing somebody other work, so people might refer those also. When they will be reading your article, they will be referring, or they will be reading those referred article as well. So that is also very important. So final, when we talk about scientific style, where according to Thomas and Turner, they talk about this 5 component, where the truth, presentation, scene and cast, and thought and language, they need to be taken care of. So that particular aspect I've covered. So that is where your focus has to be, while to touch all the component. And the few tips where you think of writing as a beginner, so you have to keep it in mind that you are your main interest has to be like the readers. Always it was like whenever we think I'm writing something, you write it on your perspective, but it is fine. But at the end, the readers, there has to be some interest to read your the concept or your article. So that you have to keep it in mind, and clarity and concisely you have to prepare the whole manuscript. It is just like preparing the food with clear a lot of ingredient and all the thing, but it has to be in that way. So what to avoid? Many equation, basic equation which is repetitive, already cited in other paper. You can avoid that. Repetitive figures also, so many figures, putting so many clumsy in the manuscript, that also you have to avoid. Tables, that is same like bigger tables, if it is like in review paper we have seen it is required, so you can keep it, but see how the tables, it should not be only tables, 10 pages of articles and 5 pages of table, so you have to see. Then you have to avoid words like new, novel, for the first time. Then grammatical, typographical error, you have to do multiple round of proof or reading kind of a thing. Or you can, once the manuscript is ready, then you have to share it with your co-author and ask them to go through it repetitively, so that in that process you can fine tune it. And this is all what I plan to convey in this particular lecture. In the upcoming lecture, we'll be discussing about the document type. The second lecture will be on the document type. Once the manuscript is ready, so where to publish, like where to submit, where to send the manuscript, and you need to be very sure like what is the document type when it get registered in the Scopus database. क्योंकि कभी कभी हम समझ में नहीं आता है कि कॉन्फ्रेंस पेपर हम समझते हैं इट विल बी ऑफ आर्टिकल, बट अल्टीमेटली इट documented as conference paper even though it get published in a journal or in a book chapter. So stay tuned, and please, if you like this particular lecture, please like it and share with among your colleague and friends, and subscribe this particular channel. Thank you everyone. Thank you.